Well, hello and welcome to the Profit Express. I'm Tim Healy, and I'm inviting you to join me each and every Wednesday so you could be prepared to win the battle for business. That's right. Welcome aboard. Thanks for sharing some of your time with me today. Now, if you have a brand that you have to promote and get out there, it's a product or a service, you are like so many of us, and you would just love the opportunity to be able to create amazing, fun, entertaining, and valuable content. The kind of content that your customers, your prospects, your fans, and followers would keep asking for more and more, and they couldn't get enough of it. But you know what? That's not that easy. And I know what you're thinking. Yeah, Tim, I'd love to do that, but let's not forget, I'm a small business owner. How am I supposed to be Mr. Creative Genius and come up with great, consistent content to lure in new prospects and fans and followers? I just don't have the time, and I don't even know if I'm that creative. Take a deep breath, because everybody out there who's got a brand wants to be able to build that brand, to promote that brand. But it's not easy. That's why I have a really interesting guest for you today. His name is Joel Berry. He is an actor, a writer, a comedian. He also has a company called Sweet Tea Films, where they produce films and online comedic content. So why are we having him on today? I actually came across Joel, not when I thought he was Joel, but actually when he was Tavin Dillard. Well, who's Tavin Dillard? That's a great question. Tavin Dillard is a character that Joel Berry created. And I first saw these short clips on Instagram. I'm not going to give it away. I'll have Joel describe the character. And it's funny. It's hilarious. It speaks to me. I follow Tavin Dillard, and I suggest you do too. The content is awesome. I'm going to have a little sample in a little while. And I was just amazed at the consistency and creativity of the content. So I reached out. I found the founder, the creator of the character, again, Joel Berry, and I said, you know, it would be a great conversation to have somebody like Joel on, somebody who's an entrepreneur, a businessman, but also a creative, an artist. And my conversation with Joel today, I know it's not only going to be interesting, exciting, fun, fascinating as to how he does it, the behind the scenes on how he's created Tavin Dillard and the content there, but I know there's going to be something that you, the business owner, are going to be able to glean. You will be able to apply to improve the content that you're putting out there as you look to build that brand each and every day on the journey to winning the battle for business. So it's a great pleasure to welcome on board the Profit Express, Joel Berry. Joel, how are you today?
Good, Tim. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. And it's great to see the man behind the character Tavin Dillard. And it's funny, you know, Joel Berry is so different than Tavin Dillard. So it's kind of fun for me now to see both sides of the character. So let's just start with that. I mean, again, as I said, you're a comedian, actor, a writer. The idea of the character, how did it evolve? Why did you create it?
That's a good question. Well, I've always liked to tell stories, and I've liked to act for a number of years. And in 2006, I had just gotten all this equipment for my production company, Sweet Tea Films, but I hadn't really been shooting or editing anything for several years. It was kind of a gap where I had just been writing, and so I needed to learn how to shoot and edit and all this stuff again, and record sound on my new equipment.
Right.
So I kind of gave myself an assignment, like I'm going to try to shoot a video a week for a year, see what happens with this character, but also be getting better at the craft. And you know, even if no one ever watches these, at least I'll get better at shooting and lighting and editing, hopefully. And yeah, and I had an idea one night, and I went and shot it. And I felt like in that video, in that moment, I'd kind of found at least the beginnings of this character. And yeah, I think I ended up going 82 or 83 weeks. I went way over a year, and in the meantime was able to find a small audience on YouTube, where I really uploaded videos exclusively for years, it seemed like. And then I got on Facebook at one point a little bit more.
Right.
and then it really accelerated once I found TikTok and Instagram. So
You've got, yeah, I'm not on TikTok myself, but you've got quite a following on Instagram as well. Um, so you have this equipment, you have this company again. It's Sweet Tea Films. You've got this equipment that you got to kind of teach yourself. So you said, "Hey, I'm going to
yeah,
shoot a video a week for a year." So that's kind of the project you give yourself.
yeah.
Um, and that's not an easy undertaking. So
No, it wasn't. But I mean, I think it's true for a lot of people in the arts or that are entrepreneurs. There is an element of determination where you're just like, at least I had an assignment, and I'm like, okay, it was kind of the idea was like I've given myself an assignment, so at least I know what I'm doing for the next year in regards to this, and it's not contingent on success or lack of success. It's just I've decided I'm going to do it. So regardless of results, that's the plan, and so that's kind of how it went. And I think there's something to that was helpful for me. Where it's like it's just part of my schedule now. Just gonna go do it. So
So then in all the skills that you learned, you're obviously, applying it to, the rest of your customer base and what you're doing at Sweet Tea Films.
yes, so learning to shoot again, and I was never a great cinematographer. I would say I'm competent now, but if I
Okay.
have a budget, if I have a budget for a job, I will hire that, some of that stuff out, and focus more on producing. I still edit, and I still do it all when I have to. But like I said, if there's a budget, and I think this is true for people in all walks of life. You figure out what your strengths are at some point, and you drive hard on those. There's sometimes where you have to do stuff that it's not your biggest strength, but you don't have the resources to kind of farm some of that stuff out and build a team yet. And so you just have to learn how to become competent. But
Right.
once Tavin started taking off, and my strengths really lie in writing and acting, as far as like I prefer that, and I think I have some skill there. Whereas like
Okay.
cinematography, even directing, um, it's not something that's a natural bent of mine. If somebody else would prefer to do it and they're competent, I'm happy to hand over something for them to direct or shoot, um, because it's just not something that is a strength, and I think there's something in there that I've learned as an entrepreneur, but by what your strengths are and what you're competent at, and then what has to get done, and there's like this kind of tension between all of that you just have to learn to manage.
I like how you describe that. So then, obviously, the writing and the acting is your strong suit. It sounds like what you're most passionate about. But as
Yeah.
the business owner, and it's interesting how you kind of described all that. That project you gave yourself of doing a video a week for a year forced you to gaining a skill set. While it might not be your real expertise as the business owner, even when you farm it out, you can still have, you have the ability to manage the project, manage the subcontractors, et cetera, right?
That's correct. Yes. And so you realize that there's value to it all. And I think if you have
Yeah.
that perspective, it's helpful, because sometimes we can get caught up in like, well, once this happens, then I'll be satisfied. But if we can look at like, well, this is just part of the process, and I've got to be diligent today, and maybe my diligence and faithfulness today will equip me for where I
Mm.
want to be, not there yet. And so and there's a lot of pivoting that has to go on. You have to read situations and say, okay, what's best, and like, and then it changes. Like I tried to get better. I tried, I had to be a cinematographer and light and do these different jobs that maybe weren't my biggest strength for years. And then all of a sudden, when Tavin took off in the last couple of years on social media, let's see, 2000, I think not. Well, the last couple of years, it's been a significant more income than it's ever been, for the most part for Tavin. But 1 year, 2 years ago, I think I made more money off a ring light and a cell phone than I did all my production equipment and lights and all that stuff. And so, and
Really?
that was because, of my writing and my acting. So the things that were my strengths, people weren't asking, well, what are you shooting your videos on, or how are you lighting it? They were engaged in the content, and then sponsors or brands would show up and say, you're getting an audience with this. They don't really care. They
Right.
care about the comedy and the audience that's being drawn in from that. And so so the last couple of years I've been able to focus more on writing and acting, and my cinematography is like setting up an iPhone vertical on a ring light with a little stand,
Yep.
and doing the thing. So yeah, it's
Wow.
funny how different.
What? Wow. All right. So now, like when I said in the intro, again, today's guest, Joel Berry, uh, who is the creator of the character Tavin Dillard, who I came across on Instagram. Um, Again, Joel, your writing, your content, your humor is right up my alley. I've been following it. I love a
Yeah,
lot of the stuff that you put out there. So for
thank
people
you.
who don't know Tavin yet, okay,
Mhm.
describe the character, number one, and then number two, how did the character come to you?
Mhm. Well, Tavin is a trailer park resident. He lives in a trailer park called Chancellor Park. He lives in a trailer by himself, but he's about 2 trailers away from his Meemaw. She lives there too. He mows lawns in town, and there's just a lot going on in his neck of the woods. And so the videos online are just catching people up on kind of the weekly happenings in town. Some of it's story based, some of it's more joke and punchline based. It's quick, and
Yep.
you're always trying to introduce Tavin quickly to a new audience, that like if they jump in, they don't have to feel like they're lost. Like you kind of get who the guy is and where he's at and what he's about. It came about. I was born and raised in Arkansas. We moved when I was in elementary school, and my extended family's still there. In fact, my parents have moved back to Arkansas now.
Hmm.
But I just always thought, I became fascinated at some point with how there are people in this world who can take a very simple thing and make it sound like such an adventure. Or they'll just talk about a meal they had, or not even the whole meal. They'll just talk about the biscuit that was at the meal, and how good it was, and the butter that they put on the biscuit. And they will tell a story, and you think like, you're just talking about eating a biscuit, but the way they tell it, you're like leaning in on your seat, and you're like, man, I wished I was there. I'd like that biscuit, right? So I thought there was something like that, to like the simplicity of life, of just appreciating the everyday stuff, and really
Right.
like kind of bring life. And that's a little bit of what you find in, or maybe a lot of what you find in Tavin, the character.
Now, I'm sorry, I got to jump in, Joel, for a second. You talked about the
Mhm.
biscuit. I've seen a lot of your clips. I haven't seen every single one of them. Was
Mhm.
the biscuit the nature's napkin? Was that the one?
There is a video about that. Yeah, how the biscuit's nature's napkin because it wipes everything else up on your plate. Yep.
Yeah. I was confusing biscuit videos, but yeah. So you're originally from Arkansas. Now, what, you're in California now, I think?
Yeah, I live in Southern California. I've
Oh,
actually been in Southern California since 1994, so it's been a while.
it's okay. Did you know did you know a Tavin Dillard growing up?
I think I know Tavin is a combination of a lot of different people and personalities and conversations. So I didn't base Tavin off of one person for sure. No, just, you know, uh, definitely small town life. Um,
Yep.
and that type of thing, which seems to resonate. There's fans that have reached out from Ireland and the UK and Australia and Canada. Like, in my mind, I'm like, well, this is like small town Arkansas, but and other places in the United States, Oregon, other areas that aren't near Arkansas, and they say, man, this is like my town, or they're like, I think what I've come to understand is that small towns are everywhere, and so it's not necessarily just a southern, although there may be more things that people in the South or Midwest makes more sense to them that Tavin says, but then the small town thing is kind of universal in a way. There's small towns everywhere where people know everyone, and there's the 5 or 6 places that you go, whether for groceries or just out to eat.
Yeah.
or whatever recreation, and that I think is what resonates with the audience as well.
So it's not just you have a global reach then. If you're saying Ireland, I mean, obviously, a much different culture, but somehow they can relate to it. Maybe it's that small town feel that kind of connects them.
Yeah, yeah, that's my guess, and people in Australia too. They really like it, and I thought, man, I don't, Tavin speaks English, but it's not like always easily under like captions help with my character.
Yeah.
So I'm just sometimes like, oh, I'm glad that everyone can understand it and track it. So
Right. Right.
funny.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. All right. So this is what I want what I want to do, Joel. So my producer, my engineers got a clip for people who haven't seen Tavin. We'll
Okay.
just give a little bit of a taste of Tavin in character here. Mike, do we have that clip? All right, let it roll.
When we wrestle in the trailer park, they call me the hammer. You don't want the hammer to drop on you.
Oh,
I top rope you, and I'm wiry, but I got an elbow like a Patriot missile. It'll find you. My brother Brett tried to come at me with the ground game, and he got that figure four on me. I reversed the figure four. The quicker you can get up on your feet, you can bring your other brother into the match. Your half brother, half Nelson. And if that don't finish him off, I'll go back to the card table and I'll just launch it so high. And while they looking up in the air saying, when he coming down, I stop, drop, and roll him. Oh, what's that I hear? Oh, that's the hammer. Don't sleep on it.
Oh man, that was one of my favorite ones, and I think the one at was it Thunder Punch Gym when they're going to teach you how to
Yeah.
that was awesome. Wrestle deers and that was awesome. I just absolutely loved it.
Thank you.
Yeah, just I mean, it's so funny, but it's funny. So as I'm watching more and more of this, so I see the first one, whatever the first clip was, I'm like, oh, that's some funny stuff. So I follow you, I click on more stuff, but then as I kind of get the thought of, I like to have this guy on from the creative perspective, and you have this video on YouTube where you take people behind the scenes in creating it, and
Yeah.
it is a really intricate process. People just think, oh, he's just, some slapstick, some jokes, blah, blah, blah. But
Yeah.
take us through one of the videos or any kind of content. How do you develop a particular story?
Well, thankfully, like I started in 2006, so part of it is there's like a library of content I've created that I can circle back to, and some of
Yeah.
it, maybe 13, 14 years ago didn't get many views, but now with a bigger audience, I can see what was the joke in the middle of it and refine it. And obviously, like my videos have gotten much shorter. They were 3 to 5 minutes in the early days of YouTube, and now, if I can hit 14 to 20 seconds, that's kind of the wheelhouse right now, and that may change. It probably will. Yeah. What was the question? Did I miss the question?
No, it's just
I
like
got
how do you? What's the structure of putting together the content, developing a story?
Yes. Okay. Gotcha. So, yeah, that video does kind of cover that. You're right. Because there are episodes where I'm like, I need to find the beginning, middle, and end. Sometimes it's a little more natural or easy, but even with 14 seconds, I feel like I have to reward the audience with either maybe a callback to a bigger story that they know about, or if they don't and you're just watching it for the first time, there's still like a payoff at the end, even in 9 seconds or 14 seconds, that made it worth you staying till that long, which fans on social media can be pretty quick. And so even, you're still rewarded. It's not that long, but you want them to have, when they're done, they're not like, oh, that was a waste of time, so I have to think through it. So the process, it's a little different. It's not like every time I approach every video with the same thing. Often I hear a term, or I have a thought, or I make a note, and I'm like, oh, that could be a video. And then I have to go, okay, who is Tavin talking to in this scenario? Is it his Mimo, and or is it his friend Myron Curtis? And then, or is it Cheryl Grubbs, who owns the donut store? And if it is, all of those people kind of have different personalities, so it may affect the direction that the conversation goes, and then I think,
Right.
what's the joke here, or what's the conversation, and then I try to just dial it in. Like 33-second stories, that there's maybe some good stories I tell that are that length, but it's not what gets shared or passed around right now. And so I have to, like I said, I have to think in 9 to 14 to 20-second
Really?
increments. And so it may be repurposing a funny 1-minute video and finding what's the 9-second version of that, and then just chop. And I don't mean literally. Like if you look at my TikTok and Instagram videos, there's no edits. It's whatever, straight to camera for, the duration. And so post-production for me has become something that's non-existent. I don't edit. I just shoot right to camera for the most part anymore. And then I'm quite a few Tavin videos, and then I try to add captions like on Instagram, because so many people, myself included, if I'm out in public and I don't have AirPods or something to listen to, you can read the captions, and so and I think the captions, like I was saying earlier, just help with Tavin, because it's hard sometimes to catch. Sometimes I can speak really fast and run all together, and so, which I guess there's value to that, because then you get another view, because people are like, I have to watch your videos 5 times, which I guess works out, but also you want them to be able to like understand what's going on. So captions, that's what takes a lot of time, is the captions on screen, and then the descriptions on the video, and the hashtags and all that. And that's like that whole presentation can be time
So, all right. So this is in the intro for the show today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking to the small business owner, and the small business owner could own a restaurant, could own a law firm, could be a plumbing supply company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so many of us are in the social media field, the social media experience. We're on platforms, we're trying to promote our brands. Most people who are listening to the show who are business owners, or a financial advisor, an attorney, a plumber, right? They're not as creative as you. They're not a professional artist as you are. So you're saying about putting a clip that's 14 to 20 seconds versus what used to be like years ago, they were a couple of minutes. So here's my question to you then, for the audience listening. What would be a few basics of a message, a few strategies to follow, a few steps to follow for a business owner who wants to share some content for, say video on YouTube or Instagram, wherever it is? What are some of the basics that they have to follow nowadays? Because you're very specific with your time that you said, 14 to 20 seconds nowadays.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a few things. I think one thing, if you're a business owner and you're trying to really connect with an audience and build followers online with the understanding you want to convert them to customers, is don't act bigger than you are. Like, so you don't have to say, me and my entire team, if it's you and your wife or whatever, you can just say, hey, me and my wife, we're small business owners. We love what we do. I think part of that transparency is really valuable in connecting with the audience. And then how you get the message across. Like, I was talking to someone about this in the last couple months, and they said, well, there's so many people that do what I do online. I was like, well, that's true. Like, if somebody wants to know how to fix a toilet, or figure out the pilot light on a hot water heater, or like, you can YouTube any of that. So if you are in those arenas, if you're a plumber or a fix-it person or a chiropractor or whatever you're doing, lawn care, it's like the vehicle. It's the vehicle that you get that through. It could be you talking right to camera, which I think there's value for them to see the face of the company, but there may be other things. I have an Instagram channel called Sweet Tea Films, which is my production company that my daughter runs, and she's 17. And what people say a lot is, I like the relationship with you and your daughter. So yeah, she's asking me questions about film and videos, but really the reason people are sticking around is the relationship that I have with my daughter. And that's the vehicle for that channel, is our interactions with each other. I really don't have a doubt that if I just set up a ring light and was Joel Berry to camera on that channel, just, hey guys, here's a video tip for you today, I would not have the audience I have but what's working there is the dynamic with me and my daughter. So that I think the vehicle that you relay your information matters. And then also the reason that channel has grown so much in the last year is because people realized, hey, that guy is Tavin Dillard. And so they want to see like what that guy's really like, and then behind the scenes. So a lot of the questions my daughter's asking me now that come in are Tavin questions that Tavin's not going to answer on his social media channels. So, and that's really wasn't my initial point. It was separate from Tavin, that channel, my production company, film school type questions. But I've realized people aren't interested in what kind of camera I shoot on, or, film school type questions. They're interested in, hey, do you ever break into Tavin at your dinner table with your family? And so, so we're leveraging that. But at the same time, we're not monetizing that. Like you're talking about a small business owner. Like I'm not generating income from the Sweet Tea Films so much. I thought I would through these online film classes and stuff that I created, but people aren't interested in those. And so that was good to know. I mean, my daughter and I could probably come up with some merch and stuff to kind of hustle over there as people ask about it, but it hasn't been what we've done. So again, I if you are a business owner, you're like, I've got to make money, I've got to build my customer base. Part of the reason that the Sweet Tea Films channel not really monetizing it so much right now doesn't bother me is because Tavin has kept me so busy. You can kind of relax on the other channel and just do some stuff and just let it kind of organically build in a way. But I don't know if that completely answered your question.
No. It does because what was a project to develop Sweet Tea Films ends up becoming the business in a way, as far as monetization and where the real direction is now. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah. So Sweet Tea Film, I mean, Tavin is what has generated income. Now I do like commercials and promos for clients, but even my Sweet Tea Films Instagram channel, I'm not even, there was a time a couple years ago where I was trying to, buy Facebook ads or Instagram ads and say, hey, I can shoot a video for your business. I scrapped all that. And now I just talk with my daughter as myself about what I'm learning. And I don't even tell people, even though it's Sweet Tea Films, I don't say, hey, let me shoot a video or let me shoot a commercial for you. I don't even advertise that partly because I'm driving on Tavin stuff. And if I shoot a commercial these days, it's vertical on my iPhone for a company as Tavin. And so I'm able to focus on my writing and my acting. And I get commercial work that way. Not like, again, not my cinematography. Not, whoa, Joel's cinematography is so great, let's hire him to shoot our local car commercial. That's not happening. So you have to figure out kind of what your strengths are, drive on them. And the one thing is you just be consistent over time. When my daughter took over that channel in January of 2022 on Sweet Tea Films, it had, I think, 1,192 followers. So just shy of 1,200 followers. And I said, honey, we're going to do 10 videos a week. And we're just going to go and go. And every week she would tell me, I gave her a worksheet to fill out, like how many followers did we have? How many followers do we have? What worked? What didn't work? What could we do differently? And we would meet. We tried to meet weekly. It didn't always happen. Now it doesn't happen really anymore. And now it's over 40,000. So that's a year and a year and 2 or 3 months. So like 15 months, I guess. And again, part of that's because people discovered, oh, that's Tavin, the guy that plays Tavin. And so part of it's because of the work I've done on my other character. It's spilled over this channel. The other thing is we kept showing up. Like January, February, March, April, May last year, there wasn't really growth. And I just said, we're going to keep shooting, honey, consistent quality content over time. And then by May or June, it hit, and then it kind of took off for us. I mean, obviously, there's much bigger Instagram channels than 40,000, but it's a significant number to what it was. And that's kind of how we approached it. Just like I did with Tavin in 2006, I put on the blinders. I give myself an assignment and say, I'm going to shoot, video a week for a year. So this is all right. But
This is, I mean, listen, the person who's listening to the show and watching the show, like I said, they're small business owners. So to hear that
yeah,
you went from 1,200 to 40,000, I mean, that's what they can relate to. Nobody's relating to the fact that Kylie Jenner has 384 million followers on Instagram. That's not in their universe. But
right.
hearing what you do and how you do it is, to me, is very relatable. So now, Joel, let me ask you a question. In
Yeah.
your opinion, when you're seeing a typical business owner, pick a business, it doesn't matter. What
Yeah.
mistakes are they making with the content that they create?
I think part of it is they think they know what they want, which is something I've done, and they don't listen to their audience, and they don't take a hint, which is hard to do because and it sounds like I'm saying two different things. One, I said, put on blinders, decide what you're going to do, and go do it regardless. But the other thing I've learned, you look up and you say, okay, I can tell you when I look at people's Instagram feeds and they post the same graphic every other day. It feels like, okay, they feel like they should be posting something. Maybe it's a graphic about their business and what their hours are or something.
Right.
But it can come across as lazy. It's like, okay, I've seen that. Now, you probably want to have multiple things. And I think the challenge for the business owner that's not a video, that doesn't do video, like I like to do video and be on video. But if you're like really good at mowing lawns or dog grooming, you're not like super necessarily about making videos for Instagram, but you've got to figure out that's where the people are, right? So you've got to figure out what can I show and what value can I bring them quickly, because people want to scroll about what you do. And that's not acting bigger than you are, like I said, and it's not necessarily the same thing like, hey, everybody, it's so-and-so. We've got $2 off poodle grooming this week. Maybe that, but the idea I think is more like, man, the transparency in the sense that this is what I've learned, as a dog groomer. This is a tip that may help you with your animal. It's you're giving value away for free and hope that the relationship that you're building will come back at some point, for your business.
Right. Wow. Yeah. So, all right, let me ask you, is it harder to create a 15-second video or a 3-minute video?
Oh, a good question. I guess it depends on what the assignment is. If you're just saying, go make a funny video, 3 minutes going to be harder just because it's going to be more time to fill. But you can definitely do a 15-second video that's pretty boring if you're not careful, right? So,
right.
I think it depends on the assignment. But then part of it is, I started doing Tavin in 2006. So thankfully, like I know the character now, and I have a library of a world that I've built out, and like his mannerisms, his vocabulary, all these things. And so I can dial it in pretty quick, but it's not because I'm just waiting for the next opportunity. I created opportunities, right? I made myself do it every week for,
right.
For a year. Well, I mean, that was 2006. I have never really stopped. So we're going on year 17, but I've done, there were times where I was going more like once a month. And then, I don't think I ever went more than a month without posting, but I may have at one point. And then now I post daily, every day. Now, yeah.
How do you wait? Well, hold on a second. I'm interrupting, Joel. So that to me, because I do content for my show, right? And I have a business. I'm a sales performance coach on the side as well. I mean, not on the side, it's the business, and then I've got the podcast. And I'm like, oh my gosh, creating content every day. How do you do that every day? And it's a performance. I mean, that blows my mind. I got to be honest, it blows my mind.
I've learned to create systems. I'm not the most organized guy, but I've learned certain things I have to really get disciplined on. And, I was like a week ahead. I would do 2 videos a day and then one on Saturday, one on Sunday, all last year. It's pretty much the schedule. So that's 12 videos a week. And then I realized like I like showing up that much and I've got the energy right now and the determination to do that. But a friend of mine, I was shooting maybe, okay, I've got next week's ready. A friend of
Yep.
mine's like, I think you should shoot a month of content at a time, like 40 videos. And I'm not quite hitting that. Although I have a schedule on my wall. I have most of the videos for April, and we're not even April's in 2 days, ready for the month of April. So that's
Okay.
I think there's about 7 or 8 I need to shoot. So 20 something videos are already done for next month. And I've got them scheduled on like what days I want to post them. But then I have to see what's going on with my audience, and I may have an idea, and then I just do one. But it's better to have them shot and thought out than feel the pressure of I've got to do something today and then it's sloppy. So like because I'm ahead with my shooting, I can relax and be like, okay, if an idea comes to me, let's go with it. But if it doesn't, I'm good on content right now. And so it's systems, it's scheduling. It's like, okay, these 2 days I'm shooting in bulk. That's what I'm doing. So those other days I can be writing, or I can be figuring out how to grow my business now. And for Tavin, business is merchandise sales, it's personal greetings, for people's birthdays and stuff like that. And then I have a podcast that's, 20, 30 minutes long. And that storytelling showcases my ability to hopefully tell like sitcom length or even feature film ideas, in that content. So I'm able to stretch the storytelling muscle a little more than the 14 seconds online. And then I try to sync it up. Like, I'm on season 6 of my podcast right now. I know where it's going through the first week of June right now. And so those stories I can say, okay, the week of April 17th, I'm telling this story on the podcast. So I need to find 14-second versions of this story to tell that week online. And so that's kind of how, I've worked it out right now.
So the people who are listening right now, they're hearing Joel Berry, who's a creative, Tavin Dillard. They've heard you shared a little while ago how you went from like 1,200 to 40,000 on the one YouTube channel. On Instagram, you have like 275,000. I don't even know what your numbers on TikTok are.
Yeah.
So you've created content that creates results. And that's obviously what every brand, every company wants to do. Bottom line, right? That's the business end of it. You've done a hell of a job. You got the merchandise, like you said. So you've been doing this since 2006. If you had a do-over as the business owner of this, what would it be?
That's a good question. And just to clarify, the 40,000 is Sweet Tea Films on Instagram.
Yes.
So it's and then I've got 20,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's funny, that's my smallest audience now, other than my podcast. My podcast is my smallest of all of them, but YouTube I've done the longest. That's the one I started with. What I would do differently in the early days, I did not respond to comments. People, I would read them and I would smile. And I thought the way that I reward the audience was post another video, but I wasn't super personable. And I think there's value to responding to comments and doing those things. And I did a little bit, but not a lot. I just thought my contribution here is post another video. But I've learned, you really engage your fan base, and there's value in showing appreciation to the people that are watching your stuff, commenting on your stuff, sharing your stuff. And even if people don't have a big online audience for video content, you can still show your customers that you appreciate them in different ways. And you want to think through how to obviously give them value through the business that you do, but that there's little things that aren't super expensive that you can do that are kind of above and beyond just what they're paying for, so.
Yeah, well, that's actually a great point. If somebody reaches out and takes the time to send you a comment, and if they don't get the response, it might maybe like it kind of drops off and they were expecting it and didn't get it.
Yeah. And I don't know. And obviously, now I try to respond to a lot of comments still. I have my TikTok audiences is over 500,000. That's the biggest audience, but I think the most interactive audience, and that's like I'm getting more views on Instagram and more interaction on Instagram. I think that's where the momentum is. I know that is where for Tavin right now.
Right.
You know, a lot of those followers on TikTok, I don't think are watching anymore. And so, you know, you hear about followers, but for me, I want to look at views too. So if I've got
Interaction.
500,000, but
Yeah.
I've got 5,000, 10,000 views, then it tells me, okay, there's not that interaction on
Right.
those things. So I think there's definite value to responding to comments and trying to give value. I've been doing that every Friday in March. I did this thing called Friends Friday where people will wear their Tavin gear. You know, I've got shirts and hats and stuff. And then if they tag me in it, then they're eligible to win. And then I send out free merch to the winner. And one week I said anybody that tags me in their merch is getting something this week. And so I
Love
sent out,
it.
you know, stickers to people.
Love it.
So yeah, it's not like super expensive, you know, to do it. There is a little cost, but I think I'm very thankful for the audience I have, and I do want to reward them and show gratitude. So
Yeah, no, it connects. Well, listen, you've shared a ton of great content. Um, Listen, I'm jealous. I mean, you do an awesome job. The humor, the content, I love it. I eat it up. Really enjoy it. Uh,
I appreciate
all right. So here's one last quick question before I let you
Sure.
go. Well, two-part question. Do you break into Tavin at mealtime when you were with family? Number one.
Oh, you want that answer now?
Yeah.
I typically don't.
You
No,
don't.
but I mean, there's a lot of stuff that Tavin says that, I mean, there's a reason he says it. There's some ways that we talk similar. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, I will talk like him sometimes, but it's, you know, or one of my kids might do it and break out into it. But not often. And, you know, I've got teeth that I wear. Tavin has this set of teeth. So if I don't have the teeth in, it's easier not to do that. But once the teeth go in, it's kind of turn on the character. So
Got it. And so here's the second part then. With all the content you've created, have you ever just woke up and said, "Oh my God, I can't do this one more time"?
I don't know that I've gotten to that point. I mean, there were definitely times, especially like 2009 to 2019, I felt like everything with Tavin had plateaued. Like there was like fans that had watched it for years, but I wasn't growing. There was no TikTok or Instagram really that I was doing. Like 2020 is when that started going. So it wasn't like I can't do it. Like I wanted to do it. I enjoyed it over the years. There were times where it's like, but is there a better use of my time? This isn't like paying my mortgage. This isn't really building much of an audience anymore. So, you know, there's always those points where he's like, we got 24 hours a day. Where am I going to invest my time that I've been given? And is this the best use of it? And I would have to have those conversations, you know, often.
Right.
Kind of try to be on it and with my wife and people that I trust and be like, what's going on here? And then, you know, I just kept trying to move forward. And part of me, I'm very determined. And if I commit to something, I always see it through. But I've learned there are times to pivot and there are times to quit. Like you quit something because you have an opportunity to start something new. And so I definitely have considered like, should I just stop Tavin? But that was, you know, probably 2015 to 2018, thinking through like, hey, is there anything here? What's the end goal here? And so, but then once the TikTok took off and then Instagram again, there's tremendous motive to keep producing. And in some ways, I created an obscurity for over a decade. And so there's all this material that I have that people haven't heard. So for me, that's valuable too, because I can repurpose stuff.
Awesome. Listen, I thank you, and I hope you keep Tavin going for a long time because I enjoy the content, you know, if nothing else. Great insight, man. Great story. You shared a lot today. You really, really did. I appreciate it, Joel. And again, obviously people can follow you and any Tavin Dillard on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Anywhere else you want to direct people to?
My YouTube is Sweet Tea Films, but that's Tavin stuff mostly. And
Yep.
then yeah, you go to tavindillard.com and it'll kind of take you, you can see all the opportunities to connect with Tavin, I think, through there. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Joel, listen, thanks so much for being on board the Profit Express today. It's a great conversation. Thank you, sir.
appreciate the time, Timothy. Thank you.
You got it. And this is the Profit Express. And make sure you are on the lookout each and every Wednesday when shows like this drop today with Joel Berry, who is the writer, the actor, the comedian, and the creator of the Tavin Dillard character. Follow it. The content is great. And listen to the story with Joel today, because he has some awesome nuggets on how you can really effectively build your brand, create content that creates results. So again, this is the Profit Express, and let's do everything we need to do each and every day, being comfortable, being uncomfortable, doing something we haven't done today that we did yesterday. You know the drill. It's all about winning the battle for business. Until next time.